Google literally just combined the experience of using the Pixel 7 Pro and the Pixel tablet into a smartphone, or a foldable smartphone, which is the Pixel Fold. I say this because on the external display, the experience is very much like a Pixel smartphone. You're getting great cameras on the back, a great front-facing camera, and of course a large display. But then if you flip it over, well, actually open it up, you're getting a tablet experience, which is very much a similar experience from the Recents app, from the functionalities, to the Pixel tablet that was just launched. This is why I feel like Google is doing a great experience of bringing in Pixel tablet and Pixel 7 into a smartphone, and of course giving us the Pixel Fold. This is TK, and this is my hands-on and initial impressions of the brand new Google Pixel Fold. Let's check it out. My hope is that if you find this video helpful, that you can hit that like and subscribe, and of course the bell icon, so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So I'm going to start off by talking about the actual overall aesthetic. How is the initial feel of checking it out, holding the phone in my hand, and of course the familiar. Was it familiar, or was it just totally like something I've never used before? I'll start off by saying that on this channel, I have used quite a bit of foldable devices. I've used devices from Honor, from Huawei. I've checked out devices from Xiaomi. I've also checked out devices from Samsung before, and other foldables that allowed it to have either a larger display on the inside or even a larger display on the outside where it folds on the other side. The biggest difference is, at the end of the day, is that you typically have an external display and an internal display, both giving us the smartphone experience and the tablet experience. And I'll start by saying this. My introduction was spot on. This is literally like the Pixel 7 Pro connected with the Pixel tablet in a phone. Because when you have the phone closed, you're pretty much getting a Pixel 7 experience. It's powered by the Tensor G2, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 or 512, similar aesthetics to what we've seen before. Android 13.1, functional features, Recents app, all the things that you typically see from the standard UI element of a smartphone. There's a difference with the external display and the internal display on the Pixel tablet, well, the Pixel Fold, and that's intentionally done because, again, Google's trying to give you two different experiences in one device. Unfortunately, we don't have a desktop experience, but that's a different conversation for another day. But what I'll start by saying is this. The phone definitely feels great. It has a little bit of weight to it. It's not a light phone, which I was expecting for it to be a little bit light. And I'm not trying to say that it's a lot light like when we're talking about holding, let's say here, the Find N2. I'll say is the aesthetics very familiar. The material they use is very familiar to the Pixel 7. When you're holding it, it just feels a little bit like you're holding two Pixel 7s on top of each other, or like face to face. So therefore you have a little bit of a thickness mark there. The camera bump obviously is there. There's no question we're going to need to have that. We've seen that on Pixels before. The camera stack on the back is slightly different. We have a 48 primary sensor and of course a 10.8 megapixel for the ultra wide as well as the telephoto. Now when it comes down to the front facing camera experience, we have two different ones. We have the 9.5 inch sensor, megapixel sensor on the front facing display. That's the outer one. And then we have also an 8 megapixel camera, surprise, surprise, similar to the Pixel tablet camera that we have on the front facing camera there. So this is where you're going to start seeing a little bit differences. I'll say by first and foremost, the UI elements and the way the system is set up, the Recents app, the way you interact with multitask, all of those things on the inside display are very much a copy from the Pixel tablet. On the external display, you're getting pretty much like a Pixel device. Again, overall, the thing about it is if you've never used a tablet from Google, you may not know it, but I literally just started checking it out and basically did content on the Pixel tablet, and the intention behind the tablet is to provide us a large form factor and material you working with that larger form factor. And this is what we have here. As far as the aesthetics, overall software and everything, as you can imagine, running the latest and greatest, the camera experience is going to be very much a slight mixed experience when you're looking at the internal display. Now, we'll start by saying as well is that the camera on the front can shoot 4K 60 frames per second. That's the external display. And the cameras on the back can also shoot 4K 60 frames per second on the primary sensor. So that's going to be the best resolution. There's no 8K, typical to what we've seen before. The internal camera, and that's the one on the internal display, is housed within a bezel that's all around the actual display. That's another decision that Google decided to go with that's a little bit different than some of the other devices. So when you hold it, you notice that there's a little bit of a bezel around the display. Now, I probably will say this is intentional because, again, Google is thinking of the internal part of this device as a tablet, not as a larger display of a phone. So when you do that, you also have the ability of putting the camera in there, and by doing so, the camera sensor is about an 8 megapixel camera. If you've checked out the Pixel tablet before, you probably know that the maximum resolution on that one is going to be 1080p resolution for video, and it's pretty much carried over here. But where the video may be limited on the inside, the camera experience from photography still leverages Google's algorithm and post-processing, so you're not going to be getting bad pictures out of it. So if you're trying to take a selfie or so on. But I feel like the internal camera, for the most part, is primarily done for video, and that's really where the focus is. Tablets are intended to do video calls. You're never, I mean, you can, but you don't really want to. It's just a personal preference for me. If you're gonna take pictures, try to take them with the best camera you can get. A tablet camera is never intended to be as performing as a flagship smartphone. But anyways, when we take it out from there and go to the front-facing camera, we're getting great video, great audio, great experience with the entire device. Again, overall, very much familiar with a Pixel experience. So when you're getting it in your hand, you're not going to be disappointed. So that's one of the biggest things in there. Of course, we have millimeter wave support. We don't have video out, but stereo speakers. Of course, we have all the different experiences in there, the setup options. And again, all of the customizations that we have directly that came with the new version of, let's say, with tablet as well as the Fold. So the emoji wallpaper is sitting in there. And what I really love about it is, although on the external display, the Recents app looks pretty much like a standard Pixel, on the internal one, they brought over the one from the tablet, and that's really exciting, which means that when you go up and do the swipe a little bit from the bottom, you get access to the most recent app in bigger format, and then everything else before that in smaller cubes or basically squares above each other scrolling to the left. But we also have that dock that comes at the bottom that allows us to see some of our more recent app, and we can launch into split screen functionalities, do again things that help us to be more functional, productive with multitasking at a very easy and very, I would say, intuitive experience. And all of that runs really good. The Tensor G2 is a powerhouse of a device. Now it does warm up a little bit right under the camera stack, very much in the same spot that you'd expect it to do in the experience what we saw with the Pixel 7 Pro, but it's not exactly going to be very uncomfortable. Again, the distribution of the weight and the battery stack and the way the setup is done provides it a little bit better, I would say, ergonomics in there. Now, when it comes down to the battery, which essentially is going to be not exactly the largest battery on the market, but about 4,800 milliampere, running at a 30-watt charging with wireless charging. So we're getting all of those functional options in there. At the end of the day, obviously, there's going to be a lot more things that are going to be coming in here and things that will improve the experience on this device that is different than what we've seen on other devices. I say this because this is at its core a Pixel. A Pixel by definition gets better with time. Google has pretty much engraved that into us. If you've ever owned a Pixel or a Pixel smartphone for any certain amount of time, you know that there's feature drops. You know that there are new things that get added, functional options. I mean, even their smart displays get extra features every once in a while. So there's a lot of things to be appreciative here. But at its core, as it launched, it's essentially a Gen 1 version of a device. It's a combination of two things that Google currently sells. The CPU that we have in here is very powerful. The battery is pretty large. Haven't had enough time, obviously, to be able to do a full day with the battery and things on that. But what I'll say is this. I'm very impressed with what Google is doing right now, and I'm very confident that this will get better. Did I wish there were certain things that are changed? Yes, but again, this is a first generation device, which means at some point we're going to see a second generation, maybe a different form factor. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about what are the other options that are available on the market right now. For the most part, if you've seen a foldable, and I'm not talking about flip phones, obviously we're, the clamshells one, this is not what this is trying to go with. This is pretty much going against the existing champ on the market, which essentially is the Fold, the Z Fold. This is the Z Fold 4. And what we've seen also from other companies, let's say with Oppo with the Find N2. Now, when you see in the comparison between the two, you'll notice that the N2 is slightly shorter and slightly skinnier. It is also lighter, obviously, based on the definition of weight. And I feel like the display that we get here over on the Pixel 7, well, on the Pixel Fold, is a little bit more functional because it's a little bit bigger. So we get that extra real estate, and it almost makes it so that you never really ever have to open it up. Now, there are some options that are installed in here to be able to leverage having that front-facing display, namely that one feature that we've seen before, where you turn on the cameras or turn on the front-facing display so that you can see yourself recording content. And one thing I will give Google that is an absolute beautiful kudos there. Most devices that have foldable displays that open up, and when you're using them using the external display and you turn on the front-facing display to see yourself, they typically never turn off the internal display, which means that if you're holding the phone and you're putting your fingers on the back, you may end up accidentally touching it, so you end up having to hold it in a weird conforming way. Google shut off the display. Not only that, turned off touch sensitivity, so you don't turn it on. And only the front-facing display is running, and I found that really, really good. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and do a quick sample of all of the cameras on here. The front-facing internal, external, and the main sensor on the back with a brand new Pixel Fold. We're going to start off with a quick sample of the front-facing camera. This is the one on the actual external display on the Pixel Fold. 4K 60 frames per second is going to be the maximum resolution here. And what I love about this is it's also going to be mirrored in the same experience on the back with the main sensors. Now, the experience does change a little bit with the internal camera, and we're definitely going to do a sample there. But this should be a good audio and video sample from the front-facing camera on the brand new Pixel Fold. Switching it over to the internal camera that we have here on the Pixel Fold. Now, this one's the one that's on the right side of the device with full HD resolution. There is no 4K on this. That's going to be one of the only differences that when you're recording content on this. If you want to use the phone in an open form, you're definitely going to have to be able to compromise a little bit on the video quality. Should still be pretty good. Hopefully the audio and video looks would sound pretty good to you guys. But the biggest thing I'll probably say is the main sensor on the outside display and the main sensors on the back are going to be the stars of the show. So let's go ahead and switch over to the main sensors on the back with an open experience so that we can actually see ourselves shooting the video. Switching it over to the main sensor that we have here on the back. Now, one of the really cool things obviously is we can actually use the front-facing display as a viewfinder. So not only am I using the best cameras on this device, but I'm also able to see myself recording this. Something that we love about foldables is the ability of using or making it more functional for us to see each other. But what I really like about this is the fact that it turns off the display on the inside. Most foldables don't do that. And my fingers are actually standing and holding the phone specifically as I would expect it. Put my fingers on the back display without actually stopping this video. So my hope is that you like this video. Again, this is the brand new Pixel Fold, main sensor on the back, 4K 60 frames per second. At the end of the day, we know that Google knows how to do pictures. And with video, 4K 60 frames per second on almost all of the devices in there, and all the same features that we've seen in the past are going to be really nice. Magic Eraser, Unblur, all of the functional options that we've seen on Pixel devices are going to be there. The benefits that you get from Google and the functional post-processing options that they have in there and the magic that they've been able to do with lower megapixel sensors are absolutely going to be there. And of course, that primary sensor on the back, although not, going to be the same exact experience as a Pixel 7 Pro, still provides us an amazing experience on a foldable. At the end of the day, I'm really excited for this device. I'm not 100% sold on the price for it at this point, but this is going to be something up to you. And my hope is that my initial video here with the impressions has maybe gave you a little bit of help as to if this device is the right thing for you. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. And of course, as usual, I will see you in the next one.